Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call the November 17th Connected City Advisory Board meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes for, first from September 15th. Anybody have any questions, concerns on those meeting minutes?
I thought we did that last.
We didn't because they weren't in the packet.
Oh,
so
They didn't show
Yeah.
up.
yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't access them, but I'm sure they're fine.
Yeah, I see them and they look complete to me. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 15th meeting.
Second the motion.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? I don't think anybody else is. No. Okay, motion passes, or the action minutes pass unanimously. And then the minutes, the second item is going to be the October 20th regular meeting minutes. And
Give us 2 seconds because 2 of your board members are
Maybe adjust the camera angle. What is this saying? It's just the top of our.
Oh, yeah.
Fine.
Where's the adjusted?
Good job.
Right. Oh, and Mike's
Okay.
like. That too.
And if your other 2 board members have joined, I'd recommend
redoing it.
redoing.
Okay. Hi, Katie. Hi, Mike.
Mike is still, it says he's joining. It's not
Oh, just-
working on my computer, so. Just sort of says joining. While we're waiting, do we approve the agenda for tonight? That's the thing we do.
I mean, not unless you want to make any additions to it.
I thought we had talked about having a standing slot for like the North Lawrence corridor and the.
Oh, yeah, like staff items.
Yeah.
Staff or advisory board.
Yeah, where we're liaisons over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, we did. Do you want to make a motion to add that?
Sure, should we do the minutes and then I can do that?
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Yeah. There we go.
Connection issues. Oh, no, he is now joined.
Hi, Mike. We were just reviewing the meeting minutes from September 15th. And had no comments from anybody in the room or by Ryan. Do either you or Katie have any comments on them?
I'm good with the minutes on both September and October. I looked them over before joining.
Okay, Katie.
Yep, all good on both.
Okay. So September 15th meeting minutes pass, and then October 20th. Any comments from anyone on those? They look good to me. Okay. I'll make a motion to pass those minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Aye. Any nays? Okay, also passes unanimously. And then do you want to make a motion to add the board agenda items?
Yeah, I move for tonight to add agenda items for the bike steering plan committee. I can give an update. I don't think anything has happened with the North Lawrence.
We had.
Oh, yeah, I can talk about the North Lawrence.
Okay, so one for that,
Actually,
and then.
the reason we are starting a half hour later today is because there is a meeting tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I was not there, but I can at least get you up to speed on what's happened.
Okay.
And then I don't know if we need a second motion to just have standing agenda items, but I'll just move for tonight.
We had just previously just added a board agenda items section to the agenda that just captured those kinds of updates. So
Let's add that back. I move that we add the board agenda items to section C at the end.
okay, I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Okay, that passes unanimously. So we'll just add that after
It would be item
4.
B would be board agenda items. It'd be C4.
C4.
No, board is
separate.
It's a separate, it's not an
Mhm.
agenda item.
That's right. Okay,
Count.
yep. Okay. Great. So now we'll move on to public comment. Any public comment? I think I'm seeing mostly staff and commission or advisory board members.
Kenzie on earlier.
Yeah. Any public comment online? Okay, moving on, we'll go to the update for the Jayhawk Watershed project. I think that'll be you, Nick, right?
Plug this closer or not?
I don't think so, but I have a cord that's longer. Maybe, because mine's reaching above the slack.
Longer?
Okay,
Gosh, how do you get the long cord?
you gotta know people. Okay,
I still have like 50%, but it went from like 60 to 50 since I.
I got behind your chair. There you go.
Horrible. It's like a half hour. Okay. Okay, my name is Nick Hoyt. I am an engineer with the city. I'm the city's project manager for the Jayhawk Watershed project, and this is a little project update that I put together. We're gonna go over the project history, which I feel like could have been a JRO token mini series, but I'll try and keep it brief. So if you guys want more information or have some questions, we can stop and kind of dive down because there's a lot to go over. Talk about the current status of the project, some changes, and then where we're going. This is something that I've always looked at when I was like, I remember looking at this when I was a kid, and there'd always be things to think about. Did they make this while they were in a balloon, or how did they take this picture in 1880? And I look at my church or my house or whatever. But in this instance, what I'm really interested in is this right here, where you can see an old ravine. And it runs between Tennessee and Kentucky up to 8th Street, and then kind of goes through the neighborhood and then crosses 9th Street about at Indiana. So that ravine right there is what became the Jayhawk Watershed storm sewer. So it used to be a natural, and this is just a generic cross section. I don't know what cross section the creek was, but it used to be a natural creek. And then there was, I believe it was a typhoid outbreak in like 1911, and then they realized that all the people along the outbreak was really concentrated to the people along the creek. So in about a 6-month period, they basically put a pipe inside the creek and then buried it, and then just to make things complicated, put a bunch of houses right near it, and in some places the houses are on top of it, or the businesses are on top of it.
Well,
so then we've had 100+ years of the neighborhood and the infrastructure kind of growing around that pipe that just kind of meandered through the neighborhood. So there's two main problems with the storm sewer. So this is a map of that big green line is the existing storm tunnel going between 9th Street and 8th Street. So one is that it's on private property without easements, and it's really nestled in between houses and under several houses, most notably 812 Ohio. And then there on the bottom left corner, you can see where it's going underneath the Fork and Tumbler old Joe's Bakery building. So that's one problem. The other problem is flooding through the neighborhood. So this is just one picture of the results from a hydraulic model that we had of the 10-year storm event. One major problem is through that 800 block of Old West Lawrence, there's a sump at each alley and at Ohio Street and Louisiana Street. So those sump locations mid-block flood, and in the alleys flood. So this is a video from June 2019. So we're gonna, here, hold on.
Holy moly.
So this is where we start, right when it starts, it's on 7th Street facing east, or wait, no, on 7th Street facing west, turning south on Tennessee. So as it starts driving, on the left-hand side is like the basketball court and then the pool. Two things, so we'll watch it once and all. So now we're turning south and we're driving past the basketball court here. Just kind of looking on the left, the basketball court, and then it'll turn back and look south. So there's two things. There's lots of pictures of the basketball court flooded, but I really like this because this is it flooding, right? So there's two things that I like to note on here. One is just the amount of water coming down Tennessee Street. And that's all the water that can't get in the system upstream of there. The other thing is where's the water going is basically getting to curb level and dumping over that hill into the basketball court area. You can really see it just dumping over that hillside. Like if there wasn't that, that it makes it where the water across the street is right at the curb height. If there was something on the other side, it would, fill up like a bathtub. Okay, let's go back
Is the
to.
water surcharge out of manholes, just like really large manholes in the storm structure?
There's a few. There's a storm inlet at 8th and Ohio, kind of between the alley or in the alley, between Ohio and Tennessee, right on the south side of 8th Street, where it would come out of that structure. But I think mostly it's not getting into the system more than coming out. But at the basketball court itself, like an hour after it rains real hard, you can see there'll be like 4 feet of water over the basketball court, and then geysers kind of shooting up out of that water, like in this area. So that's like the model showing, whatever that blackish color is, 8 to 9 feet of flooding there in the basketball court. This is a 10-year storm event. That video was about a 5-year storm event, but it was about, I think, close to 4 inches of rain in 2 hours, thereabouts, something like that. Okay, so that's 2 problems, one being flooding. So working towards a solution. The first time the project really showed up, hey, let's do something, was in the 1996 master plan. It was actually listed as 2 different projects, one at 8th and Ohio and one at 9th and Mississippi. But due to fundings and other priorities, nothing really happened. Then in 2019, the city was paying off the bonds from a lot of stormwater projects. We did about around 2000. There was also a movement, and the city raised stormwater rates with the goal of doing more capital projects. Then there was, I would describe it as a political movement within the neighborhood of like, hey, city, you really need to do something about this. This is a problem. We have the storm sewer under these houses. We have this bad flooding. So in 2019, it was put on the CIP for start funding in 2021. We started with a modeling study project that modeled the whole watershed, and then it basically identified 3 major projects: the lower reach, the middle reach, and the upper reach. Traditionally, when you do a stormwater project or any sewer project, you generally start at the downstream end and work up. Because if you start in the upstream end, you generally make problems worse going downstream. However, that we selected to start in the middle reach. And the reason why that is because it did 2 things. It got a lot of the flooding out of the neighborhood. And 2, it solved most of the sewers not in the street right away problems. It didn't actually make the flooding much worse in the lower reach because all that water was getting to the park regardless. It was just getting to the park down Tennessee Street, where the project we had designed, the middle reach project, was getting the water to the park in a new storm sewer. So we really focused in on this middle reach area, which is roughly from 8th in Tennessee to 9th in Indiana. We completed 60% design from the project lower reach and middle reach. And that was mainly like, hey, if we do this middle reach project, we want to make sure we're setting it up where eventually we could get to the river. But the lower reach project was not funded. So we moved forward with final design of just the middle reach project in 2022.
Can I ask a quick
Yes.
question? Is the whole intent to replace all of that infrastructure that was on private property that was insufficient? Is that what, like, all of the new infrastructure is doing is we'll close down those old pipes?
Yes, yes, we want to get the project, we want to get all this city infrastructure
On
out of-
city right
on
away.
city right away or within city easements and resolve the flooding.
Got it.
So here's a cross section of, just kind of a hypothetical where, here's the existing storm sewer with some existing utilities at that level. And then this is basically where the new storm tunnel is going. It's going in much deeper. And the reason why that is mainly the sanitary sewer, but there's a lot of other utilities up higher. So it's really hard to get a new storm sewer system through that neighborhood at about the elevation of the old one. So that's why the new one's so deep. But once it's like, okay, the new one's got to be this deep, that's really going to impact the neighborhood. We started looking at more of a corridor concept and adding different components to the project. So there's a 1916 water line on Tennessee that's also being replaced with this project. There's a lot of places where the sanitary sewer kind of bent around and over the old storm sewer, making sags and whatnot. So a lot of that's being replaced. We added on 9th Street traffic safety improvements, which is the bike lanes, the road reconfiguration from 4-lane to 3-lane, and then traffic signal improvements at 9th and Mississippi with the pedestrian beacon at 9th and Louisiana. And then we're also doing a lot of ADA improvements along 8th Street and Louisiana. So this is what the project was bid with at the end of 24. So the project was bid in November of 24, awarded by the commission, I believe in February of this year, and construction started in May of this year. There's a total contract of 17.34 million. I think that's about 70% of it was storm funding, but then there's a good component of the different utilities and ADA also. So as soon as okay, so the times are changing. So now we're going to go over what's changed since May as the project's gone in construction. So this is a picture of where we are trying to connect.
Not me, just so you know.
Yeah. This is where we're trying to connect to the old storm sewer just north of 8th Street. So I don't know if anybody went to the pool this summer, but there's a wooden fence there along the west side of the pool. So this fence is going north-south, which means this sewer is going a whole lot more east than we thought. So the red line is where we thought it went, and the green line is where it actually ended up, or where this is existing, 19 whatever storm sewer. So it's basically under the east end of that kiddie pool, zero entry, and that is also the part of the pool that is having problems and failing, and I do believe there's some correlation there. So one thing was due to from 8th Street south, we put our camera through the storm sewer and sonded it and had a really good idea where it was. From 8th Street north, we couldn't fit the camera through there, and we walked it. So a couple things I want to point out here. So one is there's a lot of places where it switches from corrugated metal to stone to concrete, and I think there's just over 100 years been a lot of different projects here, and we don't really know exactly where it is. So that's like original rock, and then it switches to metal, and then it goes back to concrete over here. This is about at 8th and, or right on the west side of the pool. And I'm gonna go ahead a little bit here. And now we're in the part underneath the pool, and I think he starts looking up right here. Wait, a little more. Okay, so here it turns and heads more north. And they're going to start looking up. Sorry if this is making anyone sick there. So that crack is we're in the old tunnel, basically underneath that zero entry part of the pool. So like if this was out in Tennessee Street, it wouldn't really freak me out, but hopefully I think he looks up again. But this crack being directly under the failing part of the pool is
pretty obvious.
is what that seems like something we should not do. Let's not build a new.
It's not even like.
I think he looks up right here. Hold on.
He did look
For
a minute ago to show us the large crack that was running across the top.
Mhm.
For some reason, they're really focused on where they're walking and down. I don't know. Hold on.
So just out of curiosity, as somebody who's dealt with things not being where they're supposed to be subsurface, is this due to bad record drawings or bad property line surveying? Like how did it's significantly off, right? Like it's a good 10 to 20 feet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there we go. There for. I would say it's not a record drawing problem because there weren't record drawings.
This doesn't even look that old. It's like concrete. It's not like the
Yeah.
or limestone kind of stuff.
So I've wondered that, right, because like it switches from like limestone to corrugated metal, where this is more like concrete, but I think that at certain parts in here you could see rock, maybe it's like rock lined with concrete, and then down a little farther it switches to corrugated metal again. So I think we've seen the crack. We're all
You sure
good.
this wasn't part of like the Underground Railroad? We have to preserve it.
Hope not.
Just
So-
archaeological digs.
So what I've wondered is, so on the left here is the aerial photo of the pool when I was a kid. And on the right, with the current aquatic center built in the 90s. So I've wondered if that part we were looking at was relocated with the pool from the 70s, because it seems to kind of turn that way. All right. I mean, it seems like they were pretty aware of where the storm sewer was when they built the pool in the 70s.
Yeah.
When they built the pool in the 90s, not so much, maybe.
They
So-
did not, yeah, we
Yeah.
confirmed with the pool designer, they did not know in 1990s that it. was-
Right.
Oh, okay.
But as you watch the
That's
as the tunnel switches material back and forth probably 12, 15 times from like 8th Street to the river.
Mhm.
And we don't know, this section was built in 1952 and this was built in 72, and then they did a repair and moved it over here. Like, I don't know. It's like we don't know that. But it seems like we definitely lost track of where this section was between the 70s pool and the 90s pool.
And the camera that went down during design, there was an offset or something, so it couldn't.
Well, yes, there was the upper watershed. We were able to put the camera through there and locate it.
right.
And then this part, the camera couldn't make it through the different obstacles.
Mhm.
So we basically were watching that video, the guys looking at their feet and then trying to figure out where is it going. And it wasn't till once we dug it up, it was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
It's going way farther east than we thought along this alignment here, and not going more north with a little bit of east.
Hmm.
So I think it's fair to say we don't want to build this new pool on top of that.
Did this all come up during all those discussions back and forth, or like after the newer design was?
When
Like,
they dug it up is when it.
Well,
Okay.
so
That's kind of what happened.
before it was dug up, there was an inkling that the tunnel was related to the failure of the kiddie pool.
Mm.
And the design talked about, over excavating and removing bad soils, but it wasn't clear that the storm sewer was so far east. So the thought was that, If the storm sewer is where these trees are, the pool is gonna get built like this. But then once it's like basically under this is stopped. So that's why the pool is bid in two phases and the pool outdoor part of the renovation isn't for till next summer, after next summer.
And
In the
also,
project.
the reason we're here with you guys tonight is because this is the actual Jayhawk project, which we already had bid, is under construction. We have to go back for a change order
Mhm.
on it in December. And, there's been some concern that's come up around World Cup and things of that nature. So we're wanting to show you all what we're dealing with, just because it's a pretty big change order, relatively speaking. It's over $4 million.
Right.
We're
So-
not there yet.
Yeah.
So this is the plans that we drew up and then gave to the contractor requesting the change order. That basically here on the right is where we tied into the storm sewer on the west side of the pool. So we're putting in about 500 feet of 7x7 box down here to the left, which gets us right to the very south side of 7th Street.
Yeah.
So this is through the area where that basketball court is. Which just the pipe is installing the pipes about $2,000 a foot times 500, and then you start adding the other times 500 feet. Start adding the other stuff in. Just this part is multi-million-dollar change, but I think we don't want to build the new pool over the storm sewer. We want to get
And we
that part
wanna
right.
Just fix it. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw the crack.
Yeah.
When does the aquatic center, it still goes out for bid next summer or construction starts on it?
It's already been awarded.
Oh,
Right, so
okay.
it's been awarded in a 2-phase.
Yeah.
So this winter, they're doing work on what I call the bathhouse
Mhm.
and renovating the building.
Yeah,
After next summer, they'll renovate the exterior part,
okay. And so when would this work take place?
hopefully before that.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to figure
Yeah.
out with the timing, like how will the change?
Well, the goal would be like if the changer got approved in December, then they would be working on this. Like the earliest they could probably get started on it would be April, just in terms of getting all the supplies ready. They think that there's probably 2.5 months before they're ready to abandon the pool, abandon the tunnel under the pool. So like if they aren't started on it by June, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So
When its construction will start, sorry, I know you just said this, like on the pool next August?
Labor Day, so like
It
September.
closes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's like, we want to get started on this part by at least April,
Yeah,
at the latest June. So then the tunnel under the pool is abandoned by into August, beginning of September. So that project can start. Okay, so the other end of the project that's changing is more the south end. So way back at the beginning when we did the study, the upper watershed project was not the highest priority, mainly because the storm sewer, that 900 block in Mississippi, has quite a bit of slope on it, right? That south of 9th Street is kind of a hill. So there wasn't a major flooding problem there. All the water would just rush down to Mississippi. But there is the problem of the sewer being not on private being on private property, right? So it makes this funky bend there around, that's the Papa John's building. And it bends right behind that building. And then here on the west side of Mississippi, it's under 2 houses or 3 houses, maybe, depending on how you count it. So with the phase 2 of the Gateway project, and Melinda, correct me if I'm not saying any of this right, the city's receiving about $14.5 million to complete infrastructure improvements around the stadium. So
It's part of the TIFs.
about the TIF.
Just
Right.
the star bonds.
Right. It's related to the star bonds, but not the star bonds, right? It's a different bond.
Yeah.
Either way, so the thought there would be that we're gonna do pedestrian and pedestrian improvements on Mississippi, rebuild Mississippi. If we do that, we don't want to leave the storm sewer up and around the houses, there
Feel
on the
like that?
block.
Does anybody own those houses?
I considered one of them for an Airbnb at some point.
Yeah.
Just had to get one of these.
This one over here is like, it's called like the Jayhawk house, where it's like painted blue and red with like yellow trim.
Oh, yeah.
And then the one on the corner is actually really new. Like within the last maybe 15 years. So with that, the reason why that changed I can't remember okay.
So I'll just
Yeah.
emphasize, so the funding in the MOU between the city and this gateway project, the money that's coming from the TIF, it will pay for 2 blocks of improvement on Mississippi between 9th and 11th, as well as the upper Jayhawk Watershed project. So that's what the sizing is based on paying for that at 100%. So that's why we're trying to also get it done, so it does fully cover that cost.
So what we're changing to the current project, this is the storm sewer at 9th and Mississippi. So on the left-hand side is where we're tying into the existing tunnel. And then as bid, we are just replacing the old crappy storm sewers in 9th and Mississippi, right? But what we want to do now that we know that the upper project is funded, we want to build the new tunnel up to this point, which this is Big Mill on the left, the Pork and Barrel on the right. We want to get the storm tunnel to this point with part of the current project. So when the upper watershed project happens, we aren't impacting 9th Street again.
Do the work in 9th and then get out of 9th and not get back in there.
Right. So this is a
Back to molds.
6-foot by 6-foot box that's I think it's added on about another 500 feet to get south of 6th Street or 9th Street. So future project isn't closing 9th Street again.
Question about the KU Gateway project, since that probably wasn't envisioned when the hydraulic modeling was first done. I'm assuming, did you have to redo it because of...
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We did because we hadn't modeled. We had modeled doing the middle project and not doing the lower. We had not ever modeled doing the upper and the middle and not doing the lower. And so we did rerun the model again. And it's the same thing where the park floods, but it's minimal change in the timing and the depth.
That's good.
Because it's basically the water gets there to the park regardless. It's just a matter of, does it get in the pipe or does it go down the street?
Yeah.
So this is where we are currently. The original construction contract was about 17 million. We've had $160,000 of change orders. That pool and 9th Street change is the change order request for that is $6 million.
Okay.
I think that's the last slide I have. I know that did we just kind of want to talk about, is there anything else we want to talk about?
I was just gonna talk a little bit about some of the engagement that we've had on this project, because it's intense. And really been working hard with the business community that's impacted, and also recognize that there are residents around that we haven't been as pulled into engagement on. So, but ultimately this impacts everyone in that space. And so we're really cognizant of the need to get this work done. So we're going to be talking to the governing body about this change order, just so you know, coming up on the 9th. And there may be some people that are pushing back on it because they think it's going to hurt business. And we recognize that. And that's what I just want to say, that we understand the impacts of closing a section of road. And we're going to be doing everything we can to mitigate that. We'll be sharing alternative parking that, you won't be able to just pull up in front of a couple of these businesses for a while. Or it may be, a little circuitous on getting to where you're going to park for a little while. And our detours will be posted. But Nick, you might explain that little, fun fact you gave to me about detours and how they work with.
Right. So, the official detour of I guess Ninth Street is gonna close between Indiana and Louisiana on December 1st, which is the Monday after Thanksgiving. It's also the Monday after the last KU home game. So that's been baked into the contract for a long time of you can't, we want Ninth Street open for football games. The official detour of Ninth Street will be to Sixth Street, and that's because Ninth Street is a minor arterial road, and you can't detour roads to a lesser classification, right? So you can detour Ninth Street to Sixth Street because Sixth Street is a major arterial, but you couldn't detour Ninth Street to Main Street or 11th Street, collector or residential streets, and that's just because you don't want to.
Is that a city rule? Because I feel like in other cities, I've seen pretty regularly, like big roads shut down and then you have to go on a small road, a couple different small roads to get back onto the. Is that like a Lawrence standard or just good practice or?
National traffic.
Yeah, I would say it's good practice. I don't know if I know Lawrence is like, you can only detour to streets that are same class or and above. I would imagine that other cities let people get away with that because people will send traffic control plans that are like, we want to detour Iowa Street to Crestline or whatever. And it's like, no, you can't do that. But I guess I don't know what other cities do per se.
But that's a good question, Nick, something we can look into. One of the things I will say though is we're making sure our messaging is talking about it's a block. It's not the entirety of Ninth Street, because the way some of the early stuff was going out, it made it sound like the whole darn thing's getting closed from beginning to end. And I just want to dispel that myth. It is a block. And for local traffic, if you need to route around to get parking so you can go get your, deep dish Detroit style tastiness at Big Mill, you can,
Right.
or head over to the Fork and Tumbler. And I'm not sure, I haven't been in there. It's more of an evening place. So
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Sixth Street thing is we're trying to detour through traffic to Sixth Street, but local traffic can still get in and around, and I think that's the wonders of a grid system.
Yeah.
You close off one street and you can get around to the other.
Are traffic volumes on there a lot? Like compared to say 6 is like half the traffic volume, a quarter? It's definitely not the same, right?
I don't know off the top of my head. I could look into that. I feel like it's
Probably
more
would
like
memorize.
third.
Okay. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that the city put out like a news a post on the 14th talking about the block change. Was that also posted on like social media and such?
yeah, we've got socials going out. I don't know if they drop this afternoon or they'll drop tomorrow. And then we're just trying to, we're trying to stagger because we have a lot of things going out right now. So the project that I was just at, we had stuff coming out on the North Lawrence corridor study that you all have been hearing about. And then we also have stuff coming out on snow, which nobody wants to hear that 4-letter word, but we do our annual reminder to folks about our snow removal processes. And so we've got to get that in there. And then I think Trevor's got something on stormwater that we've talked about. That's going to be coming out here pretty soon too. So we're trying to balance all of that, but we will have more direct stuff going out next week for sure on the closure.
I know, and this could just be like a minor thing, but like in future stuff, I know you guys have a map at the very bottom of the web page. I think including that towards the top, like having like a graphic would really help folks because you're not going to get a lot of readers to read through the entire thing. And I think that's part of the confusion is they see like 9th Street's closed but they don't actually see a map associated with that.
No, Ryan, I really appreciate that. There's some, I think these are our graphic design standards or something that the city has, and I don't understand that either. I lead with an image. So I think that's something we can ask our coworker Michael about and just see if that's something that we can change. Was that at the press release you saw, or was that the social media?
I think I got an email about it, but I think it's a press release. I wanted to Google.
Yeah,
I just Googled 9th Street construction Lawrence and saw what popped up. So it's that second link from the city. I think it's a press release. But yeah, I mean, you want to lead with an image because I think people are confused.
And I mean, it's tough because there's just so much information, right? So that the map that's on the press release is actually the transit reroute map.
Right,
So
right.
that's saying that
exactly.
the bus on 9th Street is being rerouted
To,
to 11th, just for
Not
those
the
couple
teaching.
blocks.
Yeah.
Right,
And it's not the closure. It doesn't
right.
Mention the closure.
What about
Yeah.
pedestrians? Is the sidewalk still open or how do they?
Yes, the sidewalk is, we're posting a bike detour to 7th Street. At least for the meantime, the one sidewalk or the other will be open. And I hope we can keep that as much as possible.
given how far down we're going and what we're gonna be.
Yeah, at least
doing from
till,
a shoring standpoint.
right. So, sometimes you get in a spot where that's really hard, but the pedestrian, the sidewalks will be open or they'll be detoured to one side or the other. Bikes detoured to 7th Street. I think that, I can't remember, at Illinois or something, it'll say bikes this way.
Yeah, I'm sure drivers are the squeakiest about detours, but I think the obstacle is actually larger for other users.
Yeah, well, I'd say the other users tend to go through and then kind of create a dangerous situation. I mean, it's hard to keep pedestrians, it's hard to get them to walk a block.
Well, I'm one of those where 19th Street is closed at Maple Lane. So you go around, you have to go way around up to Harper. So if I can cut through the construction,
Yeah,
I need to do.
so I hope by the end of the
Yeah, I
year
do that
the-
too in that same spot. So
Yeah. That was a tough spot at the intersection of 19th and Maple. So the hope is they're gonna start putting concrete back
Good.
at that intersection. And once that intersection of 19th and Maple is open, you'll be able to get around it much easier as the work keeps going east
Yeah.
towards Harper.
Yeah, and when I'm in a car, it's like, 2 extra minutes to do that.
Yeah.
On a bike, it's
like a half an hour.
a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Could be a big hill versus
Yeah.
not.
That was a really tough spot of just how much utilities got moved around in that little, very tight intersection.
I think the difference too is that's not a grid over there, right? Whereas
Yeah,
here
but
you're
no.
talking about smaller blocks, which makes it easier to do.
And open blocks.
Right. The Jayhawk project would be very hard if there weren't alleys.
Hmm,
Of maintaining access to the residents, from one side or the other.
yeah, that makes
Um,
sense. What about for businesses? Will they be able to like get their goods dropped off and everything?
Yeah, we will, I mean, we're gonna work with the delivery drivers and solid
Mhm.
waste.
Yeah, because we always
They
have
might
to
have to-
factor that in too. So it's like sometimes people come at us, but it's like, no, we have solid waste trucks that have to get in there. So we understand.
Right.
So,
They might have to dolly things from a little bit farther away than what they're used to. But, and I guess the other part of that is that I think it'll be a little fluid where for these months, you gotta be over here on this street and then for a couple months, you gotta be on the next street over.
Yeah. You said it closes between, 9th closes between Mississippi and Louisiana or just
To start,
Indiana?
it'll be Louisiana to Indiana.
Okay, just that one.
And
Those intersections.
as work progresses, it'll be progressing west. So then Indiana will close and,
Mississippi.
do we want to talk about the option stuff and what the outreach?
oh, well, I could just, we were asked, by the businesses or by the chamber, I'm not sure who, to do a survey. And so we did a survey of the businesses in the corridor just to get an idea of, did they want us to continue to proceed through next summer with the World Cup team being located here? Or did they want us to demobilize, pull back, and then not come back in until after the football season, which would put us into 2027? And then, so
Yeah.
that was the question. The feedback was majority, like a significant majority of those folks that responded wanted us to continue work.
That's good.
So, but there were people that said, no, we want you
Yeah.
to stop and pull back. And then there were some that didn't care one way or the other. And I'm not trying to, if I still factor them into the negative, the people saying move forward still had it. Yeah.
Right. So the option was 1 8-month closure or 2 5-month closures. That was, because with the putting the road back together and coming in and coming back,
Mhm.
we thought it would take longer.
Would it increase budget too?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Not as much as I thought it might have, but it's there. So our recommendation is to move forward based on the businesses. The reason I bring up that we know it impacts residents.
You shared that.
Yeah, you
It's on
can,
the
yeah.
website.
The reason I bring it up is the residents weren't consulted in this, because there was louder voices. So just understand that, you know, we're very cognizant of the disruption, not only to the businesses, but also to the people who live around there and have to, you know, move through there in a variety of different ways. So, certainly.
So I can't
And so
read that.
this change order of 4.6 million to do work on the two ends, the contractor is still looking to be complete by February of 27. They're not asking for
That's great.
additional time to do that. But if we had them demobilize and remobilize, then it was gonna be like August, September of 2027.
Oh, well,
So we
So-
boom right up against another
Yeah.
football season again.
yeah.
It's just the most complicated space to be in.
Yep.
So
It's easier back when the football team wasn't very good, I guess.
Well, I would have really appreciated if they told us 5, 6 years ago that there would not have been a 24 football season. I would have appreciated that information a few years ago.
yeah,
But
I'm kind of surprised to hear the results of that survey. I'm assuming it was fairly representative because there's not a ton of businesses there, isn't it? Like 12? I mean, 12 that see customers, right? There's a lot of like random offices.
So 10 wanted it to continue.
Yeah. Really well.
Picked that option one, for the straight 8-month construction or shutdown, sorry, closure of ninth. And then option 2, there were 3 people that stood up and said, no, demobilize, remobilize again and finish it in 2027, spring of 27. And then,
people
4
didn't care.
didn't care either way.
I almost wonder, it feels like a disconnect between the vibe like online. He was saying like, oh, I can't believe it's gonna be close to the World Cup, blah, blah, blah. And the reality of business is saying like, no, it's fine. Rather you just finish it up.
I think the businesses are just like, get it over.
Mhm.
And it's like, we don't want to start and open it up, come back, close it again.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like
It's gonna be difficult on them either way. So I think they're also trying to get that out there, like, hey, by the way, please come visit us during this project.
Yeah.
And the more they can get that out there and get people.
And we're trying to
know.
look at some fun things to try to engage people with wanting to come in and around the space. Like I sent something to the Visit Lawrence folks the other day. It was art around manhole covers, like not on them, but around them, which in and of itself is a hazard for getting them installed. But the cool thought of like creating something that causes people to go, oh, I want to go down and see that. And by the way, I'm going to go, you know, patronize these businesses and know that this is what's going on for them. So, but ultimately for the team, it's not going to impact the team for World Cup directly.
Because they're not by Rock Chalk, right? Like,
Well, they'll be at Rock Chuck, but they're staying at the Oriat, is my
But
understanding.
the route from Oregon to the Rock Chalk Park is down Jayhawk Boulevard to Iowa or Buck
Yeah.
Billings.
Yeah.
or something.
by the way, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're not as worried about that as we are worried about just making sure that we give people that understanding that there's an opportunity to still go down there and it might be a little complicated, but it sounds like, you know, Maple Lane is complicated too. So, and you're still finding your way through it.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around why some, I guess, louder people seem so concerned about this. When I look at the phasing map, it seems like a block at a time, which in a grid system is like nothing. Like if you've lived in a larger city, it's like that happens all the time. Just 3 lefts, right? It's really that simple. And it's not like there are giant parking lots that are being taken away or a lot of street parking. So, well, I guess in your community engagement, have you found any really legitimate concerns? It's like, oh, I didn't think of that. Or is there kind of mostly overhyped fear of slight inconvenience? It's hard to tell as an outsider.
I don't think we could have a perspective on that. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly the individuals that are worried about it probably have a legitimate concern.
Yeah, that's
And-
their livelihood. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand them.
So that's why we have the empathy and wanted to explain to you what we're doing and show you in some greater detail and like Ryan's feedback about, can we get the map situated, like, absolutely, those are things we can do.
Yeah.
And currently our contractor's working on, some identified parking that we can share, for folks that's, you know, kind of with the moving construction zone as it's gonna be, because
Yeah.
after the first of the year, we'll start moving west, so.
Yeah, and as they have some other projects, they're able to pull crews off other projects and they're adding crews to do this work so that they can even speed up the progress. So, I mean, we've heard some comments on that about things have gone kind of slow. Well, there were a lot of issues there around 10th and 8th and 10th, Tennessee, but yeah, they're aware of it and they're bringing in more crews and you're gonna see all of that move a lot faster. They'll be working down 8th Street as well as down 9th at the same time with different crews.
Yeah, apologies. I didn't mean to put you in a tough position of how to answer. So I realized after I said like, oh, there's no way you can easily answer that and B. And B.
I think what makes that particular spot hard is the businesses that don't have off-street parking, right? So if the whole street becomes a construction site and there's no off-street parking, that is
Right. That'd be
particularly harder.
And we do have some, you know, history within our department when we worked on Mass Street, and our deputy director reminds us that we did that in 3 sets of phases. I don't remember when this was, maybe in the
I think
early
it was about 20 years ago.
20 years ago, yeah. And he said that the feedback's always been since is that they wish we'd have just gotten in there and gotten out. That it was harder on them to have to tell people, oh no, I'm not in that block where the construction's going on.
Okay.
Because once people hear that kind of stuff, they just go, oh, I'll just avoid that. And we've faced that on 23rd Street as well, so.
But I'm looking at aerials right now. I don't think there's a single business that doesn't have off-street parking along this corridor.
Or at least one that would have visitors, right?
Morgan Tumblr does not have.
It doesn't have, well, if I'm looking at it right here, did they use that?
5 you can go.
There's a sign
This
in
is
their
only-
building that says you can only use the off-street parking after business hours because it's
Oh.
associated with another business. I haven't been there, but I know that they have that hung. It was the same way when it was Basil Leaf Cafe that was located there too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I always had to walk to get there, so it's definitely something they're cognizant of.
Just as a totally random throwing it out there kind of idea. I wonder if there's a potential for some kind of whimsical circulator transit to like draw people to the area and be like, hey, it might be hard to park and get around. But if you hop on the mobile bar bike or the silly trolley replica or the funny VW bus that's just going around in a circle, then you can get to all these places still, and it's a lot easier, especially if it's run during like football game days or really
There's
nice
a lot of
something.
that kind of conversation. There's a group of us that meet on World Cup
Mhm.
every other Friday and have for about a year now.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of conversation around that, and I know that downtown Lawrence has a lot of interest in how that 9th Street corridor connects up to the, you know, the renovations around the stadium complex, and I think right now the city's, you know, stance has been, we're interested in looking at what people are doing, but from a transit perspective, and Felice is on here and probably wanting to jump in, there's just no funds for that right now. Felice, do you want to go ahead and just kind of follow through on what you've been working with on World Cup related to that?
Absolutely, and I can jump in on this as well. You're absolutely correct. There's no additional funding for World Cup related stuff, and you know, as all city budgets are aware, anything with sales tax is just tight. So we're trying to be careful with funds. But what we did do here is move the stops to get you as close to the businesses as is feasible. So we were really cognizant about that when we were planning this reroute and trying to get people as close as we could to this corridor.
And I believe, Felice, during most of the day, this route runs every half an hour in each direction, right? So, and it's talking about to start coming up Mississippi to 11th and then back on Ohio. So, I mean, that is within a couple 100 feet in both directions of those businesses. So, I mean, I think the bus really provides really good access right there to get to those businesses.
It's probably about where we'll end up with like parking as well. I mean, similar.
Right.
Mhm.
And then I know on the downtown side, it goes to Seventh and Vermont. I can't remember going west where this bus goes, but
Yeah, it goes up north to Timber Edge, but you know, if you're parking downtown in a parking garage, that's kind of could be a de facto park and ride. It's, you know, we can look into if we want to market it as such, but you can get pretty good access here, or if employees need that, we can work on how we want to get people there. We offer free travel training, so we could come and do travel trainings for the businesses easily. So we're happy to help people get onto the bus.
Just want to know, it says Fork and Tumbler has that parking and back after 5, and they're only open from 5 to 9 Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So
That's true. They aren't open at
Yeah.
lunchtime yet, but
they
they
do
have
have
been open
dedicated parking.
in the past.
Yeah.
right. I guess it's just, yeah, their parking is not on, it's not theirs. So whatever. They're definitely sensitive to the
Yeah.
to eliminate
The
the street
challenge,
parking.
yeah.
But we are maintaining access to that parking lot throughout.
Yes. Right, but to access the parking, you have to go down and back
Right.
up the State Street to get there.
I mean, I think if you're in a car, I have like, you know, it's pretty easy to get around a block. I mean, you know, it's just like if you're on foot, if you're on a bike, it's harder to get to places, right? But if you're in a car and you have to make a couple of right-hand turns, like, it's not a huge inconvenience. But I understand the concern, and they've, you know, they're accustomed to having parking right directly in front of their business, so, but people can. They can.
Never underestimate the ability of people around here to be inconvenienced by having to park a block away from something. It's like, oh man, I'm not gonna go there again.
I know,
It's crazy,
I know.
but it's
So we'll be thinking of just different ways to kind of highlight it, and just again, we're working on our messaging, but just wanted to share that with you guys so that you understood, one, the scale and scope of what Nick's been working on this project, which is massive, and the huge impacts it's gonna have. I mean, no more, is it cholera or typhoid that we were getting rid
I
of?
need to confirm that. I believe it's typhoid.
Typhoid.
I need it. Randy Larkin seems to know.
Yeah, I think it's
He's-
typhoid, because I always want to go to cholera.
Matt's actually the resident expert here. What was the outbreak?
It was cholera.
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 Okay, nice.
Cholera, yeah.
All right.
Please correct the record. Yeah.
Yeah, it's- the record indicated it's cholera. So that's where this all started. And if anybody doesn't know Matt Bond, do you want to introduce yourself? He's a recovering city employee.
I wouldn't say that. So I was a stormwater engineer for 17 years. So I retired in March of 2023. So I was at the second corridor study tonight, and Nick and I talked on Friday. So,
Nice.
and then Melinda talked saying that this was tonight. So I came down to see the presentation, but you sped through it already, Nick.
Well, if I'd known you're
It'll
coming, I
really-
would have stalled.
Recorded, we'll be able to post online. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's good.
I still watch commission meetings. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of sick.
I know it is.
Is there any other questions, guys, that we can answer, or things that we should consider before we go talk to the governing body?
One of the questions in the Times article was about power outages. Is that likely to increase or?
I don't think so. So there are some power poles at 9th in Indiana that have to be relocated by Evergy. They're planning on doing that in December. They told me they thought that it would be and I don't know much about power relocates. I'm just telling you what they said. They said they thought it would be a live relocate. So they're like,
Oh, that's not me.
yeah, that doesn't sound fun at all, but like they're moving the wires live, and they didn't think that they're saying it'd be 1 or 2 days of work, and they didn't think there'd be any power outages. Now, you know, I don't know. Things have gone wrong before.
Yeah.
It's possible things go wrong
When
again.
we did the canopy replacement, they worked with business owners and did it at night. So it was only for an hour or two at a time, but I don't think that this would be like because Evergy actually replaced their old lines themselves in the ground. So, but this isn't anything like that.
I forgot about the canopy. It's been years.
wanted to give you a little throwback.
You really have to put it back.
Okay,
Okay.
well, Nick, thank you.
Thanks,
Right.
Commissioner.
I think, pretty meticulously planned.
Have your extra long charger back.
Thank you.
Okay, next agenda item is the KPI update.
Okay, so, we're in real time gonna try and find the KPIs to show you on the internet. No. Up here?
Yes.
It's gonna be my fun trying to figure out where it's at on the
You
internet.
can just go lawrenceks.gov/strategic-plan. That's the easiest.
Here, yep, to the hamburger. Come on, you do it. See how my spelling does? Okay, good, I'm there, all right. Are they seeing this? No, not
Nope.
yet.
Never.
Right now, we'll mouse to the key, yeah. We're gonna get you this up, guys, just a second.
There. Don't do that.
There you are. You can take it back. Sure. Hey. So how many of you have gone and stared at the city's strategic plan KPIs? Okay, good.
Been a while.
Looked at them.
All right.
They're probably updated by now, but.
Well, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk to you about, because I'd like some feedback, because we're getting ready to kind of head into the next iteration of strategic planning, which is going to be, I think there's an RFP out right now, if I'm remembering that correctly, for the next strategic plan. I don't know how that's going to work, kind of given we've got a new city manager that'll be coming in here eventually, and sort of how the governing body wants to work on that. But 2 years ago, we switched to using an outside vendor for putting together KPIs. And I forget if we had like 70 or some that were part of the connected city outcome. That was a lot.
Behind the scenes, yeah, there
Yeah,
was a
behind the
lot behind the
scenes.
scenes. There was like 14 on the thing, but then it was like, there was factors of, percent where we were achieving certain things. And so behind the scenes, it was, on stormwater, we're measuring 7 other KPIs to roll up and say, what percent are we achieving? So
Right.
it was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. And so we moved to a platform to display stuff. And then in that, with the city manager over the last year or so, we narrowed down to some focus KPIs as well. But what's out here is some of this information does not get updated frequently. So just some feedback on that as we move through this, because we also are working on some other dashboards to share that may be more informative to our team and also informative to the public about what's going on. So the first set of these listed on here with our community engagement folks, and did that survey ever go out? Did you guys ever? It's never gone out. Has anyone seen a resident satisfaction survey? I think it's going out.
Satisfaction survey used to be every 2 to 3 years. So the
Yeah.
last data point on here is May of 22.
And there was
For all
supposed to
of
be
these.
one going out, and we've contracted with someone on it, but I'm not sure that it's going to hit before the end of the year. It may be the first of the year. It's the new group's called Polco. So I haven't seen sort of where that's headed yet, but so there'll be another one coming out, and then that'll update some of these experience ones that you see on the right side that are do you need something, Christine? You got it? Okay. I took her computer and now she's all frustrated. But what you will see is satisfaction of street conditions in 22. That was done right as we were closing down 23rd Street. So we don't know how much of that, plays into it, but when we look at these numbers, we're looking at them through a certain lens, plus a lot of this work that we've been doing the last 3 years isn't accounted for in that number. So as staff, we're really curious to see the reaction that we get, or is it going to be still the impact of a lot of construction? So those are things we'll be trying to break down. But ultimately here at the end of the day, we're looking to achieve a higher satisfaction level. And I believe our target is 50% on here, which I don't know that that's the ultimate number, but we'll look at that when the information comes in, and then we can always look at adjusting that. But we can also factor in on some of this, some of the other KPIs we have, like our street condition index, which then we can tell you, like, to get from here to there, this is how much more you'd have to spend. And if you don't do this, this is how much faster it's going to fall apart. So okay, so there's those ones. And then we have strategies underneath each of these on sort of what we're trying to do. And that would be kind of in your guys' space to kind of look through those and say, oh, that's interesting. This is the strategy they're trying to deploy. And if you have questions, like especially on the one with, like biking experiences, I'm sure you've seen some of that stuff move through over the last couple of years.
Oh, what kind of engagement do you get on those surveys? Just trying to understand how.
Well, I'll give you the line. It's statistically valid to up to the 95% confidence
reaching
level.
out until they
Right.
get a statistically valid.
And then we did do an extra sampling last time to make sure that we had a good representation of different types of demographics in the community. So we worked harder to make sure that we got confidence levels in each of those demographic areas, which is good. And I've been in communities that will pay to have a higher level of confidence, like trying to get it up to like 97%, but there's a significant cost differential there. And I don't know what our current contract, if we're under contract, I believe with Polco, what they're trying to do, 95% is your typical level of confidence.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yep. Okay, so
And all of the resident satisfactions with various modes of transportation, like experience, all the targets there are set at 60%. But we have biking, riding the bus, walking, wheeling, and driving. So we broke it up because we really wanted to see out the different modes.
Yep. And then the last one that we have here on this grouping is around satisfaction with drinking water and wastewater services. And so, again, some of our strategies there, are around transparency and accountability. And this is one area where we can provide a lot more information with all of the systems that Trevor's kind of shared and talked to you guys about over the last year. And right now, this is what we're primarily reporting on as far as like the engagement side, which is going to be things around like taste and odor. When it comes to your drinking water. And timing on this one, depending on when we send it out, if the lake turns and Trevor's team is doing their best, we might get hit. That's the problem with surface water, is that you can have taste and odor problems different times of the year. Is there anything you would want to comment on that? Or no? I'm putting you on the
No, I
spot.
mean, sometimes it could be just if there's projects going on in the area, or if we've had backups in certain challenging storms, and so it just could depend on.
I think that surveys generally, right? People have a recency bias, so whatever thing is closest to them or happened in time is what affects how they fill out the survey.
Yeah, that latency, recency, yes, exactly. So we're cognizant of that, and generally, that's why if you do them every year, you tend to be able to look over time to see trend. So we're a little delayed in this instance. So the next part, this is another one of our commitments, we call them, for the city's strategic plan. This is efficient, effective processes. And I will say this is one that is at the core of like who MSO is. We really like efficient and effective processes, but that doesn't mean that we're where we want to be on all of those. And some of them we're really struggling to be able to provide some data on. So the one that's on here right now, that's a newer one, is CC4, as Melinda would always say, and I'm like, I don't know what CC4 is. That's the number of signalized intersections with a, I'm muted. Is that good?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, it just said it on the screen. With a score of C or above to ease traffic congestion. And that was one that was kind of taking a whole bunch of different feedback that we were getting about satisfaction with travel.
With moving, so on the survey, and we were hearing about moving traffic through town with minimal congestion. There's also environmental benefits with that if you're not having a lot of cars idling. And so the level of service C, it's a standardized level of service, A, B, C, D, down just like grades, right? And so level of service C is stable flow. It has acceptable noticeable delays where the control delay per vehicle is between 20 and 35 seconds. So you might have to stay that long. So what we do is we measure every traffic signal, morning, evening, midday, every turning movement. And if any of them have a level of service C or below, then it kicks out. So right now we have this information on 75 different signalized intersections. We have 105. But we've only measured 75 of them to date. And with those, with all the different turning movements at the 3 times a day, 64 of them are meeting that. So our target is 65. There's a couple, little changes might be able to improve during, the evening time where maybe there's one turning movement that gives you a level of service D. And so it's kicked out the whole thing. We might be able to bring that in. The other thing we would say with this is a lot of this is to synchronize all of our signals. Like we recently did synchronization on 6th Street. Sometimes our signals are such that you really can't synchronize them. They're spread out too far. So on this, like we don't have all the signals on Haskell. Like we have Haskell and 23rd because we've, sequenced with others. But we don't have like 31st and Haskell. We don't have those signals there on either side, of K10. And we also we don't plan to count the ones like downtown because those are not programmed for level of service for vehicles. That is programmed for pedestrians. So all that takes.
And there's not all that rich information on here, which is the other thing that I would like is a little bit more of like the storyboarding to go with.
Yeah, to be able to click into it and like, here, let me learn more. And we don't have that yet, that capability.
So then we talked about pavement condition in here. You can see that we were actually losing it. The condition was going down from what was in here. And we have a new update for this one that we will be putting out from 2025 because we just finished that. So
yeah, and
to look at.
We recently did that update to the commission where we were giving an update on asset management, and PCI was one of the examples. And we were also providing this KPI in terms of a PCI value. And we were breaking it up for the different classifications, street classifications. So we're doing much better in arterials. We did 23rd Street, we did Wakarusa Drive, we milled and overlaid with some other improvements on 6th Street. Now we're doing Iowa. So you will see us kind of move out of the arterials and focus on more residential and some of the collectors over the next 5 years, because our arterial, we are over our goal of 70 PSI on arterials right now.
So, which is nice.
Yes.
For your suspension.
Breathing room.
Yes, exactly. But then it's that ongoing component here that, we talk about, which is hitting the treatment at the right times moving forward. So though we might not be spending money on intensive capital, we've got to make sure that we transfer enough into O&M to continue the lifespan.
Yeah, we're doing the crack sealing when we're supposed to, and we're doing the overlays.
Yeah. So Trevor, you want to explain why you don't have any numbers in here?
In here before.
I think so. I don't know what it is. I'm just looking at this. I'm like,
At this and being like, we were.
yeah, what happened?
We had them in here.
It even says last updated.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, we'll have to look into that. I'm sorry. That's the first I noticed this
I
today.
mean, on the plus side, you fit your target.
There could, I mean, some of it could be related. We are transitioning to a different asset management software.
Yeah.
So that could be part of that.
And then here's the bike one. This one hasn't been updated in a long time either. Bikeway completion, so.
Well, and this actually is a newer one. So we pulled some data from 2019 and 2021, but this was not.
Oh, this
one
wasn't
of
part
our
of the original
KPIs.
ones.
It was
Yes.
miles of trail before and it was changed.
Jessica's
being
on too.
Connected City, it was changed to bikeway completion. She may be able to speak to this metric.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge now is we've rebuilt some of the data sets. And so using some of these old metrics and then being able to report some of the new metrics based on how some of the line features were drawn, we're going to have challenges. So I think that's maybe why we haven't posted some of the new stuff because we're doing data schema updates for all of our bikeway data with the bikeway plan update. But we'll continue to keep trying to update these as we can. We just have to be careful because sometimes we're not looking at apples to oranges when we tell that story. Because I think what happens is like we had a continuous line drawn maybe from very miles of stretch of something for shared use path. Well, in some of the new asset inventory, they broke that shared use path at every street crossing and intersection. So it looks like if we're reporting bikeways, it looks like we reduced the amount of bikeways, but while we're building bikeways, so it doesn't tell the right story. And it's just about how the data is constructed. So we're working on it.
Sorry that you had to sit in here for this, but thank you.
Well, that was a plug for the bike plan update process happening now.
Yes.
On the next round of strategic planning, since this section is about accessibility, would it make sense to just call it accessibility? I think equity and inclusion can be a little bit of a target.
This is how the commitments were labeled before, but I think that is something that will be looked at with
Yeah,
the
I'm not
strategic
suggesting-
plan update.
We decide to change it, but
Yes.
that might be a good conversation to have next round.
Yeah.
Yes, we have modified our vocabulary when we're going for grants and things like that, but this being one of our commitments, it is throughout our website in a lot of areas.
And we still have a
Equity and inclusion director. Yeah, so those titles still exist,
Yes.
but that vocabulary may change, this update.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see when that gets kicked off and started. So just know that.
It looks like the proposals will all be received by tomorrow. I checked the website, so.
It's tomorrow. Okay, so we'll have them all in and then they'll start the work on figuring out who.
Then they'll take a consultant's recommendation to the commissions.
So on this one, Jessica is on here too again, but this is sidewalk accessibility. And I think there's a lot that we're doing in this space. And, unfortunately, you guys went with us on the RAISE grant and recommended that. And we were not awarded it, but we did get some feedback. And I don't know if we want to kind of talk about what we learned from that as part of this commitment. If we were to try and do something like that again in the future. Jessica, is there anything you wanted to add there? Did you leave me?
I'm still here. No, I think we're going to continue to do this work. Again, we have data and tracking, building issues. So we're continuing to work to elevate the use of data in our systems and process. And accessibility is one place where we have some storytelling to do for the community.
And I do think that the work we did around the brick sidewalk conversation really was a barrier for us to get going on some of this other work related to accessibility. I want to say accessibility. And so now that that's kind of out there, we're working those processes and it's a lot of work, but we're getting through that. And I think that's going to start, kind of showing up as we move forward too. So Connecticut is one of them right now. So, okay.
Yeah, we've got 3 major sidewalk projects happening to improve accessibility right now.
Okay, any questions on any of those? Otherwise, we'll go to the sound fiscal stewardship area, which is very exciting. We have a new one on there too that doesn't have any numbers. But the street maintenance cost per lane mile is something that as staff, we kind of struggle with because we know it's not an apples to apples metric, but there's rationale for this. And I'm going to let Melinda try to help me figure out how to explain why we're sharing this. It really depends. Like the Jayhawk Watershed project could be considered a streets project. And
so on this, we're really trying to measure those specific line items on our bids that go to the pavement maintenance itself. So We're trying to find easier ways to do this, more efficient ways to track the cost, because right now it's kind of manual to go back through line items and take out things that are not applicable, because we don't want to count in street maintenance costs the curb. That's more stormwater related. We don't want to count when we have to replace sidewalks or ADA ramps. That's separate. So we do have an update that's not on here yet, but I will share that the current amount funded for street pavement maintenance per lane mile that we have is 13,220. However, our target has now changed because costs went up. And so to actually keep up with what the asset management is showing, we should be spending closer to 20,000 per lane mile. And we're at 13,220, which is about right. We've been in that like funding 50 to 60% of the need. So when we focus like we have the last few years on arterials, we're doing great in arterials, but our residentials, our local streets are really dropping off. And so some years with just the combination of where we spend the funds, we may see it kind of stay level for a while, but then it does eventually drop off if we're not keeping up with the treatments that we need to do to maintain that. So we will be updating that and then communicating that to commission, the updating in the upcoming budget process as well.
So I understand this is what we're actually spending, not the cost to produce that new lane.
This is, the target is supposed to be what is the target in order to maintain at the lowest cost of ownership, which is that $20,087 per lane mile. And then it shows where we are actually at. So the 13,500 was back in, we actually hadn't updated at that since 2021. And then it was showing kind of where we were at. Now that we have updated all of the costs and the need in the model.
So we're underspending because we're not doing the treatments that are necessary.
We don't have the budget to do all of the.
Okay.
And that's why, again, these are like, it's a snapshot of data, but that's why.
It can be
really
like so many different ways. You're like, oh,
You're saving money. That's what I thought when I saw it.
Right, but you're really not. We're spending less per lane mile now, but that means we're not meeting our target though elsewhere on condition. And so eventually.
So we're failing on asset management.
It's like the pothole in front of my house that's been filled in with asphalt 7 years in a row. Just actually needed to be repaved.
So
like each time it looks cheaper.
Right.
But over time, it's not the right solution.
Right. Exactly.
So this is interesting because it's labeled, sound fiscal stewardship, and it looks like we're being sound fiscal stewards, right? Like we're spending less than the target dollar amount, but until you explained it to me.
Spending less is not good.
That's
Here,
right.
You want it to be.
That's right.
And so this is one where we need to add the narrative instead of up above, like here it says, move the baseline from this to this, like we need to have some narrative that says we need to spend this amount.
Yeah.
That's our target. On the right treatment, spending this much will actually create the lowest cost of ownership over.
That's right. Yeah.
So that, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're walking through
But
this
that
as
feedback
it
is
is.
great, that that's how you're seeing it.
Yeah.
Yes, we do need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are things we're gonna be trying to figure out. How do we work with the central management of this with the city to be able to better tell the story of what is going on so everyone understands what we're doing and not able to do or why we're doing it the way we're doing it. So, and then the other one we just added here was the cost recovery for the airport. Airports don't generally make money per se, but how much of a loss leader they are is relevant. And so we're going to be trying to figure that out. And there's nothing sitting here, but I want you to know that as part of Connected City, that we're working to be able to figure out what our cost recovery should look like going forward. We're in the middle of hiring a new airport manager. Christina and I are working on it because she's now helping me. And we have a lot of staff that are touching it that aren't necessarily paid out of airport. And so we're going to get to that point where we're going to be able to report on what the airport's doing to help not be a burden on the residential taxpayers.
Yeah, I'm glad. I know that we don't deal with aviation in our group, but because it's a private airport, and
It's not
like,
private, it's actually public.
oh, yeah, and public, but you have to have a private plane to be able to
Right.
use it, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, but like, it's not a commercial, you can't take a commercial flight in and out of
No,
Lawrence.
you'd have to charter, or if you're a
Yeah.
pilot, you can rent a plane and then you could take it up.
You can't use it, right? Or aren't using it.
Unless you have a pilot's license, which most of us don't, but there's some people in the room that have access, so. But yes, no, and we do not run what they call a Part 139, which is a charter, or not charter, commercial service out of there. We have Part 135s, which are chartered service, which are not scheduled. So like, there'll be like, a
Plane that's coming in.
game charter come in that,
Yeah.
they're flying from wherever to come in for the game or whatever, but we don't have that kind of scheduled service there,
Mhm.
which, the likelihood of that is slim to none. So these airports that are functioning in what they call general aviation space, have different ways of trying to help balance out their costs
Mhm. So how does the airport generate revenue?
off of leases. So
PT hangar storage space for your
Oh,
airplane.
okay.
yeah, different aviation functions out there. So let's say, somebody has a shop that repairs planes and they have their own hangar out there. They're leasing land from us.
Got it.
There's a fee. And at the end of the day, you can start to collect a portion of the revenues off of there because it goes back into paying for the operation and maintenance. The federal government pays for a bulk of the capital infrastructure costs out there. So our match is 10 to 5%, generally speaking, on aviation projects. And there's tons of grants out there because there's a very strong national investment in ensuring that aviation is happening.
Yeah.
So just interesting, and you can chase the history of it if you're bored. But yeah, so anyway, just interesting. And then one of the other things that we are tracking is around our employee engagement, which specifically, this one doesn't include solid waste, but we do that as well. This one I think we struggle with a little bit trying to figure out sort of how to really have a huge impact on stuff, because a lot of times it's not necessarily something that we definitely control. But we haven't hit the magic number on this one. And another survey was done this year as well. We haven't seen the data out on that one yet. And then here, this is a good one. Environmental sustainability. Trevor, you want to talk about your safety?
On the engagement, what does that number mean?
The 3.8, the target?
It's out of 5.
Yeah, so they score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like how engaged on this, so it's just the raw score.
And the engagement thing is really satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do a similar survey at work, but it's just a percent
Like
of staff,
neutral
like
or
75% of staff scored this question good or above, or
Yeah.
neutral or above. And
And we
so,
look at the questions
Yeah.
specifically that way typically, but then for this, they wanted like that raw score to be able to.
for the
and then
public,
this-
that number might not make.
It doesn't
Yeah,
much sense.
yeah.
And we struggle with it being forward facing because there's some strategies behind it, but
Yeah.
like they
Internal.
specifically pull out solid waste, but they're part of our department. And, when we do activities, we do them together to the extent practicable because we all have service delivery components, but it makes it a little challenging for us. But I think part of the drive was back when there was a lot of unionization in different work groups here 5-6 years ago, that they were wanting to really start to see how folks were responding. So
Even just knowing it's out of 5 is helpful.
Yeah.
I believe the solid waste engagement survey is on the welcoming.
it's on
Strong welcoming
Welcoming neighborhoods,
out
their page has their
Yeah.
results.
and we've improved.
Mhm.
We have.
Okay, Clean Water
So-
Act, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so these next two, the Clean Water Act, number of annual violations, that just gets into our regulatory permits. We originally had that showing as number of violations per month or per quarter. there's a ton of data behind these because there's thousands and thousands of samples we have to take. And what we kind of simplified it and saying, you know, our goal is to actually have 0 violations. And so we're just going to show what we had over an annual basis. But again, there's not a lot of detail here. With 2020 was an E. coli violation for wet weather, and 2024 was a total residual chlorine violation, which was
And these are on the wastewater side, just to clarify.
Patrick, you want?
preventable in my opinion. And then the Safe Drinking Water Act ones are obviously very important. Those are actually shown on our consumer confidence report that comes every year. You'll see, and that's one of the bold text hopefully every year, is that there's no violations this year. You know, that's always our goal. But that report actually gives you a lot of detail, shows you our highest detections of any parameters and that kind of thing. So this is a new visual way to display this information, and it is a little bit of a benchmark against other communities as well, because as our plants perform well, we could win awards, and you know, that kind of.
And you even won some awards even with,
Yeah.
with the violation there.
Well, so they're different plants, so usually.
We combine the plants here just to make it even more confusing.
So these were from the Kansas River wastewater plant, and then even the regulatory industry, you know, they know compliance is very difficult. So if you have less than 5 violations a year, that you're still winning silver type awards for your performance. And part of that's just because wet weather's a challenge, and there's just a lot of challenges with that. And then on the drinking water side, it's a little different because you're kind of consistently trying to produce that same quality water that always meets your regulatory limits there.
And the next one we have is our bus ridership from prior year. And Felice, I know you were hanging around on here. Do you want to talk about that at all? That's a newer one as well. Here she comes.
Sure. Yeah, we report our bus ridership to the National Transit Database every year, and that's public data, so we won't have any problem updating this when it's time to get it ready for this dashboard.
And then renewable energy is another space that we've, been working on. And that one has been pretty static, but we should see maybe a little bit of change.
Well, and this is the renewable energy use as in for our electric bill.
Yes.
And it's actually been at 100% because this is where the city buys renewable energy from Westar through the agreement.
Yeah.
It's the credits. So that's currently the KPI. And so we're at 100%. We ensure that all the electricity we buy has come from clean wind energy from Westar. But the next metric is the one we are hoping to make the most movement on. So percent of city used electricity powered by on-site renewable energy. We have a target of 3% because we do have a few lead projects that are happening right now with MSO Campus that's putting in solar, as well as Station 6, Station 6 that is also looking at solar as
So is the 1% the police station solar?
Nope, it does not have its solar up yet. It's actually I think it's been awarded or it's going out for advertisement. So
Okay.
we're going to be putting on some canopies in the parking area that will have solar. I think that's actually the 2026 project.
Okay.
The first is getting parking stalls in. But there's some at Prairie Park, and then is it Fire Station 5 that has some, so I'm trying to remember all
Okay.
the renewable, but we have, Kathy would be the best to answer this. We have some projects that had been going on before I was with the city that installed some, and then we didn't really have a lot coming online, and now we have a lot in the works through design, so.
Yep. And then we'll have more, hopefully, as we move forward.
Why does renewable energy not count like heating fuel?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, are the only utilities coming to city buildings electric, or is there still like natural gas coming in?
There's still natural gas. All of our new facilities, we're trying to do 100% electric from direction from the commission. They've pointed to LEED Gold, and so we do it except for like a generator, a backup generator natural gas is better than the diesel, so we've been doing natural gas for that. But there is not currently like a renewable natural gas, although it's been discussed. So right now, being able to measure percent of our electricity by on-site renewable, and then anytime we're installing that on new facilities, we're also not doing natural gas. There's we don't have any specific projects in our CIP that's like decommissioning something off of natural gas or onto electric only. We don't have any of that, but we'll be looking at what the options are for like our city hall reconfiguration project, since that one's a renovation.
Seems like switching energy for electricity would be maybe more true to what's going on if there isn't actually a metric or a goal for the rest of the energy, because there's energy. But okay, that's interesting. That explains why it's so high then.
Yeah, and then on the fleet side, which Felice has her set of vehicles. But I think when we update this number from 2 years ago, you're going to see a change again in the number of city fleet vehicles in addition to the transit, because I think at this point that was mostly transit vehicles that was making up that number. But we've added them in on our smaller fleet side. So whether it's
light duties.
Yeah, the light duties. And we have then 2 fire trucks that are going to be hybrids coming in. They'll tell you they're electric, but they're hybrids. So those will be coming into play. But as far as we've looked at them for things like our solid waste fleet of vehicles and the technology, we would basically need 2 times the amount of vehicles that we have to be able to do that work. And it's just not.
And then you have embodied carbon in producing twice as many new vehicles, so it doesn't really.
Yeah, so we're working through those things like where it makes, I guess, probably the most practical sense, and also looking at cost of delivering services. And so trying to improve for the environment, but at the same time trying to not make it so completely unaffordable to receive service.
Where's the bulk of the vehicle fleet? Is it law enforcement or fire or just MSO in general? Like who?
Light duty, probably miles, you would say PD.
Okay, so
on the most miles.
Is light duty like everything up to like an F-350 or something, or like anything under a bus basically?
150 and F-150.
Oh,
okay. If you get up
150 or 250, I know once we get to like 550s, they're not light.
Yeah,
They're medium
exactly.
duty.
It's basically up to a Ford Lightning.
Okay.
Because anything that needs something heavier than that.
Where we haven't
It doesn't really exist yet.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that you can find stuff. It's just not, one, the expense of it, and 2, how we can justify it.
Yeah.
Right. So
It's getting more expensive too, isn't it? They just,
And there's limitations like in bed sizes. That's what we've learned. Like certain operations needs an 8-foot bed. And the minute you say that, you gotta go traditional.
Yeah. So
And don't hold me on bed size, but there's certain specs like that.
but we're watching whatever comes down the pike. I mean, we had a lot of conversations with the MSO campus around, okay, do we look at, doing compressed gas, CNG versus, how many electric charging spots. And so that conversation really stayed on the electric side. But we know that there's other things that could come up, hydrogen into the future, things of that nature.
And this is a great opportunity to just mention, we are looking at a joint meeting with the Sustainability Advisory Board.
Oh, yes, that is.
In January. So I know that's upcoming on the agenda, but some of these conversations are what will be on the agenda for that joint.
Yeah. Yep.
But we've made a lot of headway in the fleet, so I'll be interested to see when we update this, because I know we have several electric trucks now, a lot of the compact cars, and I know PD's picked up a couple of them recently.
Yep. They have some.
We've been really working hard at all the EV infrastructure too. We're putting all the charging infrastructure in for the EVs right now.
I'm concerned that they're gonna get a lot more expensive. Like I think Ford pulled back on Lightnings. They're gonna go from $50,000 to like $80,000. I manage the fleet at work. It's like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Accuracy, not maybe is CX.
Yeah.
Like manufacturers are pulling in what they're making.
American manufacturers may be, but internationally they aren't. And that's going to put us in a tight corner.
So more to follow on that one, but we will have a joint meeting coming up with the Sustainability Advisory Board on kind of that push towards a sustainable future here for our community. And I think that's going to be a really robust conversation. And so now we have a couple others that we will be updating. I'm going to switch over to Felice, and then we have one more just on the calendar for next year. So, okay, Felice.
Sure. Can I borrow your computer? How's everybody? Anybody need a break? This will be a presentation with a vote at the end, so just.
I'd rather keep going because I want to help get my kid to bed sooner. So
That's understood.
It's been a long evening.
My husband has that problem right now. Which means they'll be still awake when I go home.
All right, so. I'm just gonna pull from my
probably
desk,
does.
Thank you. We're able to see if it's.
I haven't been sure yet.
Okay.
Give me 2 seconds. Sorry.
Impressive.
We're waiting. Hillary, I think you were curious how many on-demand buses there are, right? Is it?
Yes, how many run?
Oh, it fluctuates throughout the evening of different runs, different shifts for different peak frequencies. There's probably about 8.
Oh,
7 or
really?
8 in maximum service.
Uh-huh. And do they run max on weekends? Is that the, like, weekend overnights or no? Depends.
It's probably split. It depends. You'd be surprised where some of the frequency peaks are during the week, just in terms of work shifts and things. So, yeah, we try to maximize it based on overall ridership.
do either of the short electric buses get used for this?
No, they're not a good use case for on-demand stop-start overnight. It's more consistent on routes. So we have a zero emission transition plan online that kind of outlines the in-depth aspect of why fixed route is a better use case for those.
Okay.
But we did look. Okay. This is the Lawrence Transit On-Demand Fare proposal. I'm Felice Laverne, the Director of Transit for the city. And we'll walk you through it. A lot of this is stuff you saw last time. Sure, everyone gets back in here. And with a couple of additions plus the survey information, I can also pull up we did our survey on Lawrence Listens because everyone can see the responses. And so the report I pulled is the report that's on, or report I pulled is the report you can pull as well, just as a member of the public, which I like that. Okay. So tonight we are at November 17th. You're going to receive the survey report and vote on returning fares to Lawrence Transit On Demand. We're proposing a $3 fare for the on-demand service. Grants that help pay for the pilot program, exploring the new technology, expire next year. A $3 fare will keep the service at current operating levels. And then if approved, fares would begin March 1st at the earliest. Not trying to do that over the winter and give people some time to adjust. As a refresher, we have 104,000 approved revenue hours between all of our services by our contract. And so we have some strict limits that we stick to. Fixed route and T-Lift paratransit are still proposed to be free in 2026. And then Lawrence Transit On Demand is the only service looking to bring back a fare for 2026. As a reminder, Lawrence Transit On Demand is an app-based shared ride service that operates within the city limits on Sundays and overnights. All vehicles are ADA accessible and equipped with bike racks, and trips are scheduled in advance and in the moment via the app. Here's an overview of our data. So Lawrence Transit On Demand started in September of 2023 with funds from a KDOT AIC grant. We put about 10% of our total contracted revenue hours towards the service, and that's since the start of the service in the Nightline iteration in 2014. It's been about 10%. So since it's gone up and down, but since it's averaged 10% of our revenue hours, about 30,000 average annual rides for On Demand, but this number has 2023, which we started in September, so most of that was Nightline, 2024, and we didn't include 2025 data in here since we don't have it. We've done almost 90,000 rides, and 94% of riders and rides are booked through the app. Either way you slice it, it's about the same. You can also still book on the phone, which is why that is there.
Okay.
And so we leave that option open, and we have some workarounds if the fares are passed for still booking on the phone, which we can get into if you'd like. Nightline was a precursor to On Demand from 2014 to 2022, and this was a $2 per ride service scheduled only by phone in advance, and that provided about 14,000 rides, a little, over that. A lot of barriers, if you don't know your schedule, if you don't want to talk to someone on the phone to book a ride. So we were having a lot of dead spots overnight, and it was geared towards third shift workers. And so if you weren't getting off work, we had a lot of dead time for the drivers, and the most expensive cost in transit, besides buying buses, is drivers. And so just trying to use those driver hours the best we can is why we tried the on-demand service to fill in those gaps in service with the on-demand booking feature. And that
Felice,
really worked.
do you guys have data on like Nightline? I know like no-show has been and like no-show rates have been an issue with Lawrence Transit On Demand. And like, do we have any idea if before we had a lower no-show rate when there was paid fare?
Yes, that level of data wasn't in there because we didn't have the technology to track it. But in general, if you talk to drivers or anybody, it wasn't as much of a problem because it was primarily workers anyway.
Yeah.
And so they were going somewhere specific.
Yeah. Okay.
Generally. Yeah, so here's that no-show rate, 8%, almost 400 trips per month, which surprised me when I started looking at, diving into that data. And so you will hear anecdotally and on social media that it's hard to get a trip on this service, which is good. That means we're filling all of our slots, but it's hard. Now some of those workers are competing with social users or different things. So it just feels a little bit difficult. And so we want those 400 trips back per month. We're only asking for a fare to cover the technology, 31,000. We're a public transit agency. It's a highly subsidized service, and it would be almost impossible to capture the full price for the service, which is between, low end $20, what we're doing now, high end $40 when we had half the amount of riders. So it's expensive, but we are lucky in Lawrence to have an overnight job industry, and we want to make sure we get people to work. It's really critical. Our projected revenues, I use 2023, 2024 data. So we project it'll be somewhere in between those. We didn't have a full year of on demand in 2023. So that's the lowest possible amount we would make. And so all amounts cover the technology fee. We have a high latent demand as shown by our service. We can see how many people are trying to get rides but cannot. And so we didn't factor in a decrease in revenue based on a decrease in ridership because we don't anticipate we'll have a decrease. I haven't name dropped the company. We use Spare as who provides our Lawrence Transit On Demand app. Spare Wallet, it would be internal to the app. We activate it. It uses Stripe. So it's a highly reputable payment program. So for every $3 pass in our conservative scenario, we'd get $2.69. So that's how you're seeing the projected revenue. And this, it may be a little better in reality. We were just wanted to see, if they do some transaction grouping, but it's only in certain scenarios, and that's kind of hard to predict. So we just went worst case, which is not too bad. So we were trying to make this fare as low as we can to cover costs. No new downloads, very accessible. To touch on the regional comparisons again, we're in line or cheaper than our partners, and they both provide daytime services. So it's not, we provide Sunday service. So not completely apples to apples. There's some stuff going on in Kansas City, like if you are connecting to their fixed route during the day, it's free, but we don't run on demand at the same time as any of our fixed route services. Okay, and here's some things we went ahead and tried to look at different things, anticipate what we might get asked. Can we keep the app without the $3 fare? With the grants expiring, we can't afford the app without fares. We also can't and don't want to cut service to accommodate the technology fee. We'd have contract repercussions, so we can't do it anyway. Plus the opportunity cost of the lost revenue and sustaining a tech fee that was, not budgeted in the long term. What also won't work, so if we don't go forward with fares, the option is to return to a call ahead service because we can't sustain the app. So the cost per passenger is 100% higher, double. So from $40 down to 20 is what that means. Because of the algorithm trip-based grouping and the in the moment feature where we're filling those holes that are dead in the middle of the night. So the app doubles our ridership, brings the highest efficiency the service has seen at 4 passengers per hour with the same relative service hours, and 4 is a pretty high number for microtransit. It's hard to get it unless you have a really tight zone, but we go the whole city. Yes, so if we return to call ahead service, 59% of today's rides would disappear, so it's quite a bit, and that's about 17,000 rides or riders. It comes out to be the same. And I did check, I didn't put it in here, based on our survey, which we know that folks answering the survey probably overrepresented with people who can't afford the service. I did that calculation, and I think it's 11,000 people would lose access to the service with fares. So it's worse. More people are affected by going back to call ahead. So we made sure to check all options in all scenarios. Okay, so it's been a successful program. Free pilot while we tried out a new tech. Didn't want to pass along the cost to riders, and everything was fare free. It's all fare free as a pilot and hasn't been codified anywhere. And so everything is, at the will of the larger commission and this body as well. We brought down that cost per ride, which is really important. So we use taxpayer dollars and federal grants. And so it's important to us to bring the highest value that we can and make our services as use your taxpayer dollars as well as we can, serve twice as many people, and then improve booking and tracking convenience for riders. Okay, survey data. This is the executive summary. This is what we'll go over. We received a higher proportional response on this survey than other surveys based on ridership. So our huge route redesign survey had like 300 or 400 responses. This had 82. We kind of ran the numbers based on the subsets of our populations. We're looking good. So we feel comfortable using the survey data. It follows our public participation plan. Everything felt good to us there. The survey shows that the majority of riders can still pay a $3 fare. Workers made up still the highest number of on-demand users across almost all categories. Most riders are satisfied with the app and the reliability of the service. And overall, riders report not being able to pay $5 or $7. So we'll get into each visual, but that is what we found in a nutshell. So you'll see, I just screenshotted the publicly accessible data for you here. This survey was, pretty well quantitative, and so we can just show you the raw results. Here, we did go into some details based on the questions you asked, and we did a little bit of analysis, but you'll be able to tell the difference between those and ask me any questions you'd like about it.
You zoom in just a little bit.
Yes, and I wonder if I can even full screen a PDF.
That's
Better? Okay.
explain for you.
Okay, yeah, and I can go over it with you. So we had overall, in a lot of our surveys, we get mostly writers, which is good. We are asking our writers what they think. We also always welcome folks who don't use our services to give their feedback, and so you can see 13 folks who never have used our service went ahead and weighed in, which is good. So you can see we have a lot of people writing 1 to 3 times per week and 4 or more times per week. And you will see that those are primarily people going to work, trip purpose, work, but a good split of other options. Folks going to school or university, KU students, other students. The Sunday is probably shopping or any, shopping after 8 p.m. can be done on demand. Folks going to movies. Folks are using this service in the early morning to get to dialysis. So all people are using this for all sorts of things as they need to. Okay, and here's the trip purpose by frequency. So not a crazy analysis, we just split it out. So if you're riding 4 or more times a week, the big blue bar is for work. And you can see that that's a higher representation, except for the ones where it's a few times per month, and then you get your other categories, but still quite high for that as well. So that was a specific question, is folks on this board wanted to know who was riding 4 or more times a week.
People who never ride but are going to healthcare appointments, that last box is interesting.
People love to answer survey questions. So in some of these other ones, we did take those outlier nevers out, but we left them in on this one.
There's always going to be some junk in your data. It's just inevitable.
They downloaded it to maybe go, and then they just haven't.
It's true,
They're thinking about
honestly. So you'll see this one with our tricolor. That's one that we did the analysis, and so do writers think on demand is reliable? We took out any of the nevers who responded to that since they hadn't used the service, and so folks are thinking that it's reliable, and so don't know. Yes, and this next one is screenshotted from the survey. Most folks are, like knowing where their bus is, how long till it gets here, booking on your phone, sends you push notifications when it's nearby. So that's much better than just calling and then just looking out the window, I suppose, is what people did prior to that. Okay, here is our fare elasticity. We've got some stacked bar charts here so you can see. I wanted you to see the track of yellow of folks not able to use the service. And it tracks pretty consistently at first glance. The folks who, the more you ride, the more it's going to affect you, is kind of what we saw in the survey, which makes sense. But in general, 50+% can still continue to ride with the $3 fare.
Is that, sorry,
Yeah.
not part of the board, but just out of curiosity, do we know the major employers that people are going to, or is it just a total scatter shot? Because if there was
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have heat maps though, and so I think in the past, employers would pay their workers directly for bus service, and so it was less of a program that the city took on, but like in the Greenway Circle, I think a lot of those folks had fare programs for their employees.
Just wondering if there was comms that we could get out to some of those higher
employers.
Yeah, just say, hey, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
the fund money's gone.
Yeah.
We're back to paying for it ourselves.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea, because we have the app so we can communicate directly-ish with riders when we did the survey, we put a box, when you open up the app, you had to click, yes, I've read this. Whether or not they read it, I don't know, but they had to confirm that they did, so we can reach writers directly, but we can probably figure out how to make sure we're reaching the employers as well, and we're giving people as much time, till March to kind of see what stirs up, what happens, how can we make the transition go a little better. Yeah, so
Elise,
after, yes.
do we have a sense for, and if I missed this, I'm sorry, but for these, I love this chart that shows like the percentage of people that will still be able to ride. Do we have a sense for where the most frequent or like high need riders fall within those categories?
Um, Say that again.
So like the riders that are using this service most frequently, do we have any sense for like, is there any data that could show whether those riders are the ones that are gonna fall in the not able to ride anymore category or the, less often, like any
Don't
crossover with that data?
don't think we do because we didn't collect um income data on this. We
Oh,
just
right.
let people
Okay.
self-report. And so, and this one was also anonymous. I'd have to do, I could
Yeah.
tell you, download a bunch of raw data and show you where our most
Mhm.
frequent people are going.
Mhm.
But I don't have um income data on
If
it.
if I could interject, I think exactly where you were getting at just now, a crosstab of question 7 and question 2 would
Yes.
be really nice
That's what
because if
I'm
I mean I'm looking at this data and it's saying 65% of the writers are either not going to use the service or they're going to use it less. If 65% of those writers are going to work, then that's a significant population group that's being disproportionately impacted by a fare. I think it's important to look and see which
Yeah.
groups are actually a part of that category, those two categories in particular. If it's if the vast majority of them are in the same as I do now, who are going to work or going to school, which is what this service is used for, like what our intent is, that's different. But I'm pretty concerned by the percentage of folks who are going to be negatively impacted by this, and if it's those groups of people that we're wanting to use this service for.
Does this add some? So we looked at workers directly. And so are you including the less often and the not at all in a category? We were including less often and the same as a yes, I can still use
I
the
think it's a,
service.
I think it's a little bit more accurate to include those two as a category instead of the same and less often because folks if would use if it's free, they're going to use the service the same amount. But if there's a fare, they're going to use it less. So we're seeing that decline in ridership if we're implementing a fare.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think it actually this data is showing that the vast majority of people who use the ridership are being negatively impacted by the fare.
Mhm. I agree.
Okay.
I mean, part of the question is, what does it mean to use it less? Is it one time a week? If that's the only time you'd use it, then that's a pretty severe cutoff. If it's an employer or employee that would use it 5 days a week and now can only use it 4 or 3 days a week, that's still a pretty severe hit because then that cuts their ability to actually make the income that would allow them to use it.
I hear what you're saying. There's options with carpooling and I think there's a lot of options between, what happens if you use it less. We didn't ask that specific question. We are looking at to do the best we can with the data that we have here. And then keep in mind the assessment of if we don't approve a fare, we go back to call ahead and it impacts more people statistically
I
than
did, I did
than
have a,
the
so,
fare.
sorry to interrupt. I did have a question about that. So kind of, and I know I might be skipping ahead here. What we're posed with the question on whether or not to approve a fare where the service goes away. And I'm sure you all have already like crunched numbers and looked at other funding opportunities. But is that correct? Is my assumption correct in that if we don't implement a fare, that's our only option is to implement a fare. There's no other potential funding mechanisms for the service, either through the city or through the state. There's
That's correct. The pilot funding is widely available, but once you move past the pilot phase, you're into operational funding, which is hard to come by even in like a generous federal funding environment. So it's quite tough. We're of course looking at different, it would have to be, working with other types of funding, which gets into the more nonprofit realm. It's, and are much harder to acquire. And so this, from going from a service that used to cost $2, workers were able to take the service to going up to $3, which has a better benefit on, the taxpayer dollar in general, as well as a new technology advantage to make sure that you can track your trip and book your trip. We're weighing that cost.
That's thank you for that. I appreciate the distinction between pilot and operational. Was this looked at to be suggested in the 2026 City of Lawrence budget? I know that on or fare free transit for fixed route and paratransit is funded through the city. Was this also reviewed for
This
that?
is all transit dollars through the sales tax. So we're not in the general fund at all. Transit is not. So this is all sales tax dollars matched by federal operating grants is
Okay.
how we provide our transit service. So looking at the general fund wasn't an option for funding based on how everything is going. So we're looking to make sure that the transit budget is structurally balanced and can continue and have a good, balance of taxpayer dollars, balance of new technology versus no technology. If we're committed to this technology for a certain number of years, so I can commit that there's not going to be an increase in fares, the contract's not coming up for renewal anytime in the next couple of years. And so this is our best proposal. Yeah, it's a tricky situation. Budgets have a lot of complicated decisions, as I'm finding out, and as everybody in the city is finding out. And so it's definitely tough. But this is a door-to-door service. It picks you up at your house and brings you to a predetermined destination versus fixed route. It's running on the route, whether or not people are getting on and off. And so it's a completely different structure and funding environment than an overnight.
Significantly cheaper than an Uber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing too that you're struggling, that is gonna inherently come with, like, when something's free is that zero price effect. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I haven't been charged for that, and now I'm going to be charged for that. And the value of that feels different
Yeah.
to me. It's why when we lower taxes, it's so much harder to raise
Yeah.
them. Because once that price goes down and it's not the actual pricing of the good, then to get it back up can be a challenge.
It's hard. And we've implemented a suspension policy to try to get those almost 400 rides lower. So the service is suffering because those 400 rides are left on the table there as well. So even if it remained free, we'd still be not really serving everybody that we could be. So it's operationally, and you can see it in microtransit systems across the country. Almost everyone is returning to fares because of that. Just the onslaught of who doesn't want a train driver to come pick you up at your house.
So I've been kind of ruminating over what Ryan and Mike and Katie were saying about maybe we should be lumping in the people who would no longer ride at all and the people who would ride less, because we don't really know how much less. It might be like 80% less, 10%. Who knows, right? I mean, it's a very granular number that we can't get to, but it feels like a reasonable assumption that that would be an impact, right? So adding those two percentages in the survey responses, you get 40 plus 25 are the percentage of riders who would be impacted either all the way or at least a little bit, 65. Then I went back to your slide about if we were meant to call ahead service, like going back to the dark ages, right? 59% of today's rides would disappear, which sounds like a similar number almost, which in my mind is like, well, it sounds like kind of a wash, honestly. Should we just stay the course and make it less disruptive to switch systems back to what we had that had its own barriers, or should we just stay the course? And you're going to see a loss one way or another, right?
Right. Well, and I was just looking at that Nightline data, and it was basically once we went to an app, we doubled the ridership. So it's like the variables in question are, is it the cost or is it the technology?
Convenience, yeah.
The convenience of having an app that increased the ridership, or was it the reduction in the cost? And you can't disaggregate that information.
I wonder if there's similar apps in the ride sharing industry, or sorry, similar data in the ride sharing industry where once the shift from taxis to Uber and Lyft was kind of complete, was there more ridership simply because it was so easy, even if it was about the same cost, honestly? I mean, handling a taxi kind of sucked, or calling somebody, but just press and go.
Yeah, it was so
So
good
easy.
that.
Yeah, it was kind of fun in some cities, right?
You have the taxis all just lined up and then
That's
you have to
right.
wait for the Uber and then you're like.
Yeah.
right here.
I also had a second question. A lot, so I was reading through a lot of the like actual written responses throughout the survey. A lot of them are from students. Did we see an uptick in riders when KU got rid of KU Safe Ride?
Yes, we did. We did. And so that is also, there's a lot of factors outside of our control. And so a lot of students report, or some amount of students report that they can't bear any fares. But their university made decisions about that.
Is there any KU funding for this program? No.
This is all city, this is city taxpayer, not that students aren't taxpayers, of course. But this is city and federal funding streams. There's KU contributes their ridership to the National Transit Database, and we get to get funded based on our collective funding. So there's not KU investment in the transit system, but for this service in particular.
Did this come into being before or after Safe Ride went out of existence?
That just happened.
Oh,
Yeah, it
okay.
would have been after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think the availability of the rides will become like freed up more? Because like sometimes I'll try to book a ride and it'll be like the next ride's available at 4 a.m, and it's 9 o'clock at night. I'm not gonna stay up till 4 to take the ride. But like, do you think that this could help free up some rides so that there's more availability? Because that question I had for Jenny was like, maybe there's only one bus running. I don't know,
Yeah, I think the only thing I can speak to is the no-shows. Those will stop happening based on national data. So for at least 400 more rides, I don't know how folks will or will not use the service more or less. But all I have is the survey data here as well. But those no-shows are very likely to stop.
I mean, I don't think we can directly compare it to Uber, right? Because Uber, there's going to be a car available, but with Lawrence on Demand, it may not be available for 6 hours, right? So that's like another consideration.
Right, and it's very tricky. We want the service to be full. We want to utilize all of our driver hours. Leaving all those Nightline rides on the table was never fun, and it was, I always wanted to.
Staff too.
It's hard, and I always wanted to use that service, but I never knew where I wanted to use it for fun, to go home after the band in the park in the summer, but I didn't call ahead, I didn't do it. And so I think we were assuming some of that is there. I think, we're hoping to give people enough time to be able to make some adjustments. Also keep in mind all the people who did see the survey but didn't want to answer, so it's overrepresented with folks who were going to be affected by it, which we know, and that's how surveys work. And so balancing all of that, does it feel good to, with our fiscal responsibility, if we went back, there just aren't more than go back to no app or keep the app and pay for it. Those, we looked, I would present them to you if there were other
I think
options.
just the ability to do some outreach to employers, if you're able to proceed forward, I think that's a good help because some of them may recognize, they have a hard time recruiting third shift. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and a lot of our riders also anecdotally take on-demand to work in the fixed route home, which will still remain free. A lot of folks were using this service. Also, I mean, I looked at the heat maps, they're going to do groceries. Well, it's nicer to do groceries, on your private bus than on the fixed route. And so some of that's gonna shift, and that is okay.
Yeah, I wondered about those trips where there's like, it's bi-directional, like shopping, you're going there, you're getting the things, and then you need to get a ride back home. And what if there's an extended wait time, or you're using it to go to healthcare and you're going to the doctor or the hospital and you need to get a ride back home, as opposed to leaving work to go home for a single direction trip.
Yeah, and some of the healthcare trips, we're not exactly sure, like, I know some of it's probably the dialysis, but they're also eligible for T-lift,
I was
which
gonna
remains
say.
free. So it's
Yeah.
like, I think some folks will shift to T-lift, which is a more appropriate, and it has more safeguards for people to get to their appointments better. And T-lift, is what we call demand response, different than on demand, and we do have to grow the T-lift service for demand, whereas this set hours can't grow it. So there's other
And
options.
one's federally required, the other isn't.
Right, yeah, this is a nice to have service. We're not looking at removing it based on our commitment.
Mike.
Yep.
Okay, Mike.
Okay,
Do you want to call the question, Mike?
let me see if I have anything else for you. I didn't get through my presentation. Yeah, this is the overall best assessment for this program and for the structurally balanced budget. Here is a
I
little bit
personally
more
would
from
like to hear the rest of your presentation, so I would encourage you not to hear it. That's just my vote on this topic.
Yes, I will finish. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So it's the zero fare was in between the $2 and the $3 proposal. Free pilot program, one-time competitive grant funding, tested a new technology at no cost to riders, brought down the cost per ride, balancing taxpayer dollars, and serving twice as many people while improving booking and tracking convenience for our riders, for that additional $1. And so there's a lot to weigh here. And I think, yeah, I just laid it out for you. What we're looking for, I appreciate the weightiness of this proposal. It's not easy for the team or the staff to want to, bring forward the first fair proposal after a fare-free moment. Sales tax is down. It's hard. And we just can't eat the technology costs and have a structurally balanced budget.
Thanks, Elise. Any other comments, questions?
Just that, I appreciate the presentation and what y'all had to calculate to do this. I'll vote in favor of the fare, despite, personally being against adding a fare onto a free service, because I would like to see this continue. I will say, I'd like to get see this back on our calendar next year to kind of get a recap after or whenever, a year after the fairs go through, to see how ridership has been adjusted and if we can get, up-to-date data post 1 year of implementing the fair. But I do appreciate the work you all do, and I understand this is a tough situation, and hopefully in a better federal environment in a couple of years we can take away the fair again. But for now, I understand.
We would look at it in March 2027 then, correct? Because the fairs won't be implemented until March 2026.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can have it back April, give us some time to put together a report for you. So in probably Q2
2027.
of 27.
Yeah. That's a great suggestion, right?
Absolutely.
I'll call the previous question unless somebody else has a comment.
I think so. Anyone want to make a motion?
I so move.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Oh,
Do they? Ryan can be second.
Ryan, can you second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much, Felice.
Thank you all. I appreciate the weight of your decision making.
Well, I regret that I need to go, but so I do not have time to report on North Lawrence stuff, but I will be able to chat about that next month. There will be another open house or something like that in early December, so there will be more information that I can provide at that time.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. I would like to attend that one in December for sure.
Number 10,
Oh, okay.
the next date.
Mhm.
And it'll be an open house style, so you'll be able to kind of see a summation of the information that was gathered tonight. We had 160 people was our final head count. So we did something right to get people's attention.
Not for
That's
only the
real.
people that signed in, right?
That's only
There
people
were
that
a lot
signed
of
in.
People that trickled in later that.
Didn't want to sign in either.
That's almost sounds like more than the Mass Street, like 14th to 23rd thing, which do you think would even be more of a hot button
Yeah.
issue? So interesting.
And is there anything else that you can share about the meeting, Melissa? Or
From tonight? Yeah, absolutely. So what we had was, it was set up to be in like small groups, but we had obviously a lot of people come, which was great. It was my hope that it wouldn't be an empty room and we weren't all going to be looking at ourselves. So the fact that we hit that many folks, we did do an extra push of not only social media. I did the radio last Friday, so I'm sorry if any of you had to listen to that. And then we also set up message boards in North Lawrence, as well as I had my team, which I don't want to do on every project, but this one's, really big study, go door to door at the residence and drop off a flyer, because we were just afraid we were missing people electronically. So pretty exciting to see this many folks out there. And they all were informed about the next meeting, but what they did tonight was they were in a group and they walked through 3 different areas. And the first one was focused on transportation. So tell us where you have trouble or where you'd like to see something different. And there was a map, and then they got to work together, or they could handwrite comments. They had
Different colors of tapes to represent pedestrian paths, bike paths, vehicular paths.
Yeah,
cool.
so some pretty cool stuff there. And I have some photos on my other phone that I can show you what some of those look like. And then another question focused around like kind of the land use side of things, like where do you want to see, medium density, low density, agriculture, those kind of things. And so folks were able to put their kind of sticky thoughts on there. And I wasn't standing over any of these tables, so I was more like minding the crowd and making sure that if there was something I saw going on that we addressed it. But and then the other one was on placemaking and asking folks like, what types of things could you envision to help define the sense of place in this corridor? So I'm not sure exactly what the questions were, but then they got to respond to that. And we had some images
like you could put a dot on art or on wayfinding signage, or you want more landscaping and benches, and so you could mark those.
But it is a challenging environment for everyone participating, because there's a lot of concern around certain infrastructure issues like flooding. And we as city staff have done studies and we have an understanding of what needs to be done. Obviously, conveying that to every individual has not been successful. And so through this process, I hope that we can continue to engage a large number of folks and be able to help them understand sort of how all the work that we've done from planning studies, whether it's some Jessica stuff related to bikes and pedestrians and transit, and Felice's stuff with her, transit routes, what that all plays into when we're dealing with other projects like stormwater or water lines or wastewater or even the airport, because it's in the city area. So, yeah.
Cool. That sounds
So-
amazing.
Yeah, and the task forces met once. And they met a week or so ago. Gosh, we've been doing so
No,
many.
last week, the week before.
The week before,
First week
yes.
of November.
And then we also did individual meetings with folks,
Focus groups.
focus groups, which
Topical
we
areas.
did not have great attendance on, which is why I really wanted to push the attendance tonight. And I think we found a successful way of getting people out. They thought they were getting road work done. So that was one of the stories was, well, we thought this thing was going to be road work again. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah. So anyway, it was good to see the engagement, and there was every type of business and resident represented. So like young, old, new, been there, entire lives, to, larger scale business, the small, like mom and pop stuff. Like we could see everything. KU endowment had folks there, and I mean, so chamber was there. Yeah, I mean, and task force members were sprinkled about. So yeah, it was really, I thought it was a very good representation and a good start, given that we have more opportunities to engage.
Cool. The December 10th meeting, that'll be like what we learned, kind of feedback. Cool.
Yeah, be stations and for people to reflect back on what they're seeing, based on how it's digested by the consultants.
Cool. That sounds awesome.
And then there's
Congratulations.
another one after the first of the year as well. Don't know the date on that exactly yet. So
Another visioning workshop.
another visioning workshop. So kind of everything's kind of building.
That's what this was, visioning workshop to,
Cool.
everyone had
It
work
was
to do
big
when they
enough
got there.
place.
Yeah, it was too small in my opinion. I was getting really nervous at the start when people were still coming in and all the tables were filled. And I'm like, what are we gonna do? This is gonna get too chaotic. Nobody's gonna be able to hear. And I'm very sensitive to people with, hearing disabilities and.
We tried to make some accommodations if people couldn't hear. It's okay, you sit up here or.
Yeah.
It was overflowing because when I left early to come here, there's people walking out
Yep,
with me because they can't get around.
yep.
So, but we pivoted a little bit and we were like, okay, if you don't want to necessarily be over the map and marking on that, here's some cards where you can write your comments down. We'll incorporate them that way. Or some people wanted to verbalize their comments and someone else wrote them up on a board. So we had all different ways. If you're more tactile or, auditory, whatever.
But the nice thing is the folks that were there understood that there's this next event and we're gonna make it a longer period of time. We were constrained by Woodlawn's hours that we could be in there. So the next time we're gonna be, I think, at the depot, unless we decide we need to move it somewhere larger. But the idea is that we're gonna give a longer runway for people to come so they can, spread out a little bit and have more one-on-one dialogue with us in the groups. So.
Yeah, I think that would feel a bit bigger.
Yeah, but it was amazing to see that, and people were really engaged. It was wonderful.
Congratulations. That's a huge turnout.
Yeah, I guess the sports pavilion was busy tonight too.
Huh.
Where can we find out about the next meeting? Because I was clueless and somehow missed this one. I'm trying to find it now, but all I can see is something that was talking about this one that just happened. I just want to make sure I don't miss it.
Did you find it?
I can email it to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll be getting stuff out on that as well. But yeah, it is scheduled for the 10th. So Christina's looking to see.
We need to get it on upcoming meetings on the iCompass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other fun.
And if you go to the city website, it is up at the top on the
Oh,
banner.
okay.
So then you can click on North Lawrence Corridor Study.
Okay.
And then at the bottom, it talks about public meetings and events. So you can open that up and you'll see the open house. We will change the big, bold next engagement opportunity tomorrow to no longer say today's workshop. We'll put the open house right there at the top.
Yep.
So we'll update that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
But we didn't give it a prominent spot on the webpage so that people would see it right up.
Yeah, we worked with city comms on that. So.
Cool.
But we also had great representation by newspapers there today or media outlets. So I think that's good too, because it's more ways for people to hear what's going on.
Nice.
I can do a quick update on the bike plan steering committee meeting last week. They are in the second phase of public engagement to understand the missing, where the gaps are in bike infrastructure around Lawrence. And they brought us 108 comments from open houses, surveys, different things. And so our next phase is to take this big map of where all the comments are and prioritize. We think these are the important places to work. So if you have an intersection that you think is important, that needs attention, let me
We might
know.
have some out of the corridor study from tonight.
What's that?
Some
You
comments.
might, yeah.
Yeah.
There were some, crossings.
Yeah.
Identify intersections.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Kenny. Okay. Then the next item is the 2026 calendar.
Oh, yes.
Were there any other board items?
Oh, I don't think so, unless anybody else had anything else.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
So 2026 calendar, we just wanted to start getting that on your radar. And the first one that we have is our Connected City joint meeting with the Environmental Sustainability Board. And we have that down, I'm sorry.
But not
January
the
22nd.
third Monday,
it will be-
because that is a holiday.
Yes,
So we're looking at
it's the Thursday,
22nd.
22nd,
second, yes.
January 22nd of that same
So
week.
we would be not on our typical day. And that's one of the things we wanted to kind of just see tonight before it's floated to the environmental board.
And they meet this Thursday and it's on their agenda it's
Yeah, to discuss.
meet with Connecticut City Advisory Board to discuss the updated version for ordinance number 9744.
So that's the goals for like the 2030,
That's what we
2035.
want you guys to
The big one.
Yep, that's the big one. Mhm. So it'll be a big meeting and staff will be working on facilitating that.
And I don't think we were gonna put anything else on.
No, that agenda will
Just
be,
the joint.
that'll be a lot of work, and we may have to meet more than one time together, but this is one of those ones where I think the work that we've done this last year with you all is kind of laying I think a really good foundation for this conversation with them. So
Would it be at 5:30?
What was the date?
Oh, the 22nd.
When do they usually meet? The time, and what's the location of
They
it?
usually meet, their meeting is on the,
Oh, here, they usually meet here at 6 on Thursday.
I thought they, yeah. Am I looking at the right one? Yeah, they're meeting here at 6.
They meet here.
So move it to 6.
yeah.
I have a standing commitment on Thursday evenings, the entire evening, but if it was one, it would be fine to make it work. But if we were meeting like multiple times, that would be harder. It's just
No, that understand. Right now, this is the one, and the reason we did it is because we would have had to move our meeting anyway. So, yeah,
I guess
no,
if
so
there's
we
a
want to go
follow-up.
back. We'll say they need to come meet us at our
Yeah.
time.
yeah, great. Okay, great. Yeah, for that, knowing that far in ahead, it's fine for me to miss it. But yeah, thank you.
I feel like
Thank
you think it's the also this
Oh,
day.
okay.
This is our paycheck.
Oh, sorry. Just,
February also.
Yeah.
Same.
oh, yes, and so the same thing will happen in February with observed holiday for President's Day. So just wanting to check in, are we still wanting to do the third Monday? I think that's what we're on, third Monday. At 5:30? Is that still working for most folks?
Yeah.
At this location, we were thinking at least until
The
maybe
campus.
August or September, and then we can
Yeah.
meet out at.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
So for right now, that's what we're gonna stay on, and then we'll look at for our December meeting, a revised schedule, which will also address February.
The March meeting falls during spring break.
Oh, two. Okay, wow, we're doing really well.
3 in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, there's 5 Mondays in March, so. Yeah, we have a couple other ones if we wanted to,
Okay.
the 4th or the 5th, and I think that's what we did last year, didn't we pick?
Yeah.
4th Monday on one of
So
those.
we'll just, and what we'll do is once we have them, then Christina will get them out to all of you and populate your calendar. But just, I didn't want to assume that we wanted to stay on Monday night, so, okay.
But our December meeting is still going to be at the same time, same place, right? The 15th here. Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Sounds great. And then do we need to come up with topics for the 2026 calendar year, or how do you want to do that?
Well, we definitely we'll be going into CIP, so that's one thing for sure. And then, I know that, we have, gosh, I'm trying to think of all the stuff that we have on our plate.
And CIP should be going earlier next year,
Yeah.
as I understand.
There'll
And
be
then-
an open call for projects probably in January.
Right, and then we'll want to definitely update on stormwater again because we're implementing the new program. And in fact, in December, I want to show you guys the dynamic website.
Oh, to be able to go to your property and see
Yeah.
what there's stormwater.
Yeah, because that's not stood up yet, and I want to show you. But no, if you have topics and we want to kind of talk about some of that at our December meeting, we can put on that so you guys can start kind of thinking about certain things that you might have an interest in. And certainly the corridor study is going to continue.
We might have a topic in March or April about adjustments to like projects because of World Cup. Like we'll be able to do an update on maybe like what we're doing to prepare as far as projects, but
Gotcha.
also operationally
Yep.
with World Cup.
Cool.
Because there's a big, I know, push to do a lot in transit related to that. And then we're assuming, 60% or more are gonna be using multimodal bike ped type options more than vehicles. So how to plan for all that.
Mhm.
Do we need a vote for January?
Huh?
Do we need a vote for January?
I think we can just do that when we set the
Okay.
next month when we set the calendar. But what I would say is we can send out a thing to let folks know to hold the 22nd.
Okay,
So
I can do that.
yeah, that sound good? So we'll send something out for that meeting after the first of the year. And then we'll bring you guys some concepts of things that we want to have on the calendar. In addition, we'll solicit some feedback as well. But definitely we want to work on better data sharing with the community. So,
Well, sounds great.
okay.
Yay. Okay, well then we can adjourn, I think, unless there's anything else.
No,
Cool.
no. Katie, get to feeling better.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. This was a great meeting.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Have a good
Ryan,
one,
for all
y'all.
your feedback.
Bye.
Bye, guys.